Welcome to the channel where I usually simplify chart reading for you, but this video is much more important. Now, there's a pyramid scheme going on in the market. I'm going to show you exactly what it is and what I'm doing about it. And if you've ever bought a crypto, then you could be caught up in this pyramid scheme too without even realizing. Most of you are probably familiar with what a pyramid scheme is, or also known as a Ponzi scheme, but essentially it's a type of fraud that pays existing investors with funds collected from new investors. And new investors are constantly needed to keep the party alive, to keep paying those people above them on the pyramid. The organizers of these schemes often promise big returns with very little risk, but all they're doing is collecting the money from the ones below and feeding it to the ones above them. And it's only the ones at the top that make any money at all before the whole pyramid inevitably comes crashing back down. But before you say, that's not me, I haven't been promised anything, any big returns by anyone, I've made all my crypto decisions myself, then I just ask you to stick with me because the type of pyramid scheme that I'm talking about is quite different to the one that I've just shown you. And of course, this video is not intended as investment advice, this is just my opinion. But now to the pyramid scheme, where I'll use a fictional character and Bitcoin as the example. Now the difference with this pyramid scheme is that it's 100% self-inflicted. Now you could argue that the other one is too, but for the purpose of this exercise, I'll use little Jimmy as the example. He wasn't coerced by anyone. He knew a little bit about Bitcoin back in 2020, but it wasn't until the end of 2020 that it really started to spark his interest. He saw Bitcoin climb from around 4 grand all the way up to 10 grand. He was really enthused and keen. He was checking this thing every day on his phone, checking what the price was. And as Bitcoin finally climbed up to about 15 grand, he thought, yep, I'm in. This is the investment for me. I'm going to pull the trigger and buy some Bitcoin around 15 grand. So Jimmy jumps into the market with just $100. He just wants to test the water. So he buys $100 worth of Bitcoin when it's trading at around $15,000 per Bitcoin. What happens next is that a few weeks goes by, the market moves up really quickly, and finally it hits $30,000 per Bitcoin. Jimmy's thinking, this is amazing. This is the investment I've been looking for my whole life. I've doubled my money in a matter of weeks, easiest money I've ever made. So Jimmy jumps back into the market again after having doubled his money with another $100. He's not getting too ahead of himself. He's like, all right, I've made $100. I'll chuck another $100 into the market. So Jimmy jumps into the market with another $100. Figures he's not risking anything. You know, he's up, he's doubled his money. Why not? Now here's where things get interesting. Bitcoin continued to skyrocket, eventually hitting 50 grand per Bitcoin. Jimmy's thinking, holy mackerel, this thing's amazing. My initial $100 is up well over 200%. My next $100 is up over 60%. This thing is unreal. I've doubled my money again. I'm up to $400 after putting only $200 in. That's it. I'm going to go a little bit harder now. This thing is going up. This is the investment I've been waiting for. So Jimmy buys $500 at $50,000 per Bitcoin. Now, it's only a few short weeks that go by, but eventually Bitcoin climbs to 60 grand. He is just killing it. He's telling everybody about Bitcoin. This thing is going to the moon. But eventually, when it hits 60 grand, little Jimmy's starting to think, yeah, 100K, this is certainly on. It's going to happen right now. I'm going to chuck it all in. I've got 2 grand left. Let's just do it. Let's take this thing to the moon. So what does Jimmy do? He chucks in $2,000 right at 60 grand. Now, I'm sure you can all see where this is heading. But what has happened now is he's just put himself into a pyramid that he doesn't want to be in. So Jimmy has put himself into this pyramid where he's bought small amounts in the bottom and increasingly put more money in as the market went up. And all that's done is made his investment very, very top heavy. He's got no foundation to hold on to. And if you think this sounds crazy, it is the unfortunate reality for many people. And this isn't just reserved for Bitcoin or crypto. One of the factors of the GFC back in 2007 is when the market started getting heated, the stock market that is, people took mortgages out against their homes, margin lending, all that kind of thing, and were buying shares when they were already up sky high, investing the most amount of money they ever had after the market had been up so high. So it happens across the board in many markets, not just crypto. And if you want to see what this looks like in terms of numbers, I've got that up for you here, where you can see purchase after purchase, 15 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand, and then 60 grand. Even though his average price, if you averaged all the prices that little Jimmy bought at, was pretty good at around 38,750, when Bitcoin fell just a little bit, it didn't take much to wipe out all of his losses. So at the time of this example, Bitcoin was trading at 49,400. His average price was below that by over 10 grand. So his average price was around 38K. Bitcoin was at 49K. But since he built himself into this pyramid that was top heavy, he is in a losing position of about 60 bucks. After all that work, all that time of watching the market, getting in at reasonable prices, this is the kind of pyramid that should be avoided at all costs. Now, how about a good looking pyramid? Let's say the purchases were made at the same time at the same prices, just inverted. Instead of 100 bucks at the bottom, we've got 100 bucks at the top. Instead of 2 grand at the top, we've got 2 grand at the bottom. What would that look like? So if we had 2 grand in 15K Bitcoin, that would be the first purchase. Next price was 500 bucks worth when Bitcoin reached 30 grand. So that would be around here, 500. And I'm sure you can already see where this is going. At 50K, 100 bucks, and then 60K, another $100. This is what a good looking pyramid looks like. You can see it's got a solid foundation at the bottom and it is very light at the top. So as soon as the market falls a little bit, the biggest investment of the good foundations has held strong. Now, what about in terms of numbers? As you can see, we've got exactly the same average price. 15 grand purchase, 30 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand. Just the amount invested at the time is what has been flipped. So same average price, the same price at the time of the example, 49,000. The difference is the profit is almost $5,000. A huge difference from the negative $60 before. And the kicker is it's no additional work. The same amount of buttons were clicked, the same amount of watching the charts was probably done, but that's just the way it works with pyramiding in the market and people putting themselves in this self-inflicted pyramid scheme. The catch is that we never really know exactly where we are in this hypothetical pyramid, and that's always the trick and the risk with investing. It's a matter of making an educated decision with where we think the market is at, whereabouts it is in the pyramid, and then what we're going to do about it. Systems and strategies build wealth, whereas emotions ruin wealth. Now, I'll put myself in Jimmy's shoes and see if I can figure out whereabouts in the pyramid we are, at least for my own interpretation and my own plan. But we had this pyramid that went up here. It started out just under 4 grand. I don't think Bitcoin is ever going to get back to 4 grand, at least in my opinion. Probably won't even get back to 10 grand, but hey, what do I know? So this kind of pyramid is probably a bit dated for my own investment plan. The pyramid I'm looking at now will probably be something like this. Now, this isn't a forecast, obviously not trading or investment advice, but this is the kind of pyramid I'm looking at for in Bitcoin, somewhere in the middle of where it is. Sure, it could still go down. I can accept the risks, but I think 100K Bitcoin, does that seem reasonable to me? Yes, it certainly does. So this is the kind of pyramid I'm going to look at for Bitcoin right now. Ethereum's another crypto on my radar, and we can see it already had a big pyramid up and down, falling by over 50%. That's pretty common with crypto, so just got to be planned and prepared for whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people were buying the most amounts that are ever bought of Ethereum at the top, as opposed to building a good foundation. And when it started to turn, the pyramid came crashing down. But nevertheless, I don't expect to be getting Ethereum probably under $1,000 ever again, but who knows, it could be wrong. So that being the case, the pyramid I'm looking at for Ethereum would be something like this. Do I think it could get to 5 or 6 grand? Yeah, I think that's realistic. When? I don't know, but in the terms of a longer term investment plan, a few years, I think it could get there. So the only thing that is now, it's quite close to the apex of the previous pyramid. So maybe it's just a little bit top heavy. I don't know, at least in the short term. But for my longer term plan, this still looks pretty good to me. So I'm keeping it as a part of this plan. Now to jump in and buy some Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I want to thank the sponsors of this episode, SwiftX. You can see I've got my brand new account. I got my free Bitcoin when I signed up, and you can get your free Bitcoin too by using the link in the description below. But you can see I sold the Bitcoin for a slight profit. I wanted to get the account looking nice and even, put some money in just to test some transactions, and the money went in and out very quickly. So yeah, it's a pretty clean interface. I can see the transactions that I've recently done. You can see my portfolio now sitting at an even 2,000 bucks in Australian dollars. And that's the portfolio history, the money coming in and out. But I want to buy some Bitcoin based on where I think it is in the pyramid. So I'll go to trade, buy. And if I want Bitcoin, I can just type it in up here. They've also got a mobile app, which is very, very clean and easy to use. So I've got Bitcoin. I want to buy 1,000 bucks of Bitcoin at its current price. And that will get me exactly 0.0159 Bitcoin. So I'll go ahead and hit buy. Market buy, Bitcoin, 1,000 bucks at 62,800 Australian dollars gets me 0.0159 Bitcoin. Let's do it. All right, I'm the proud owner of $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. If we go back to the dashboard, we can see here, I've got 50% in cash, Australian dollars, and 50% Bitcoin. Now, also want some Ethereum. So I'll go back to trade, buy. I'll search for Ethereum. Now I've got Ethereum up here. And for Ethereum, I only want $500 worth of Ethereum. It was pretty high to the apex of the previous pyramid. So I'm just going to go for $500 of Ethereum, and I'll keep $500 in the account for dry powder. So $500 gets me 0.1 ETH. Instant buy. 500 Aussie dollars at a rate of 4,750 Aussie dollars per ETH gets me 0.1 ETH. So I'll go ahead and confirm buy. There we have it. Bought some ETH. Now back to the dashboard. And there we have it. Got my Bitcoin, 25% ETH, and 25% cash. And as you can see in the corner, transactions have been recorded, very easy and clean. So there you have it, guys. That is the crypto, or rather investment pyramid scheme I wanted to share with you about having solid foundations and managing emotions, fear and greed at the times when typically it can be the hardest to manage those emotions. So if you know someone who's put themselves in a pyramid scheme the wrong way around, or if you've learned something from this video, please share it around, as I'd like to bring this to as many people's attention as possible. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you then.